down here, so I know what I'm going to be opening.
Right.
Don't need my emails open. That is a fact. There we go.
Okay.
No.
Well, there, Gavin.
Yeah, I'm organised now.
Good morning, guys. Lovely to have you with us this morning. I hope you're all well. We've got another fantastic session ready for you this morning with the lovely Kevin Mullins, and we're going to learn about all his documentary photography and just all about him as well, which is going to be really interesting. If you can pop a hello on the chat. Good morning, David. Good morning, Anne, Ian, Leslie. Good morning. We do love to hear from you. Just make sure that you've selected all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see that you're there, and everybody knows that you're present. So if you have any questions, you know the drill by now, but if you're new, if you pop them into the question and answer section, we'll keep an eye on them for you. Gavin's going to lead the session as usual for our Friday morning sessions. They're becoming quite a favourite, I think, amongst the guild and beyond. So good morning, Mark. Good morning, Les, Maxine. Great to have you with us. So any questions, pop them into question and answer, and we'll keep an eye on them for you. I think what we can do, guys, is we can get started. So I'll hand over to the lovely Gavin Prest and fabulous Kevin Mullins.
Well, morning everybody. Morning, Kevin.
Morning,
I'm just trying to stop myself from melting. I'm just realising that my palms are that sweaty. I'm sat on a leather sofa. It's 28 degrees. Apparently it's raining with Becky. It's beautiful where you are, I think, Kevin, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. We had some rain about 4 o'clock this morning, but yeah, it's gorgeous again. I think yesterday was 30 degrees or something.
Oh,
Quite insane.
no. Crackers. We're typically British, aren't we? If it's too hot, it's too hot, and then if it's too cold, it's too cold.
Oh, I love it. The hotter the better for me. I love all
that. Are you a big heat lover, are you?
Yeah, I love it. Go and lie in the grass. Perfect.
Where will you draw the line when it comes to heat? Are you a 50-degree or are you a 30-degree?
Well, normally in August, we go to Spain for a month, actually. I don't typically work in August, but obviously this year we're not doing it. Gemma's dad has got a place out there. So that can get to like 40, 45 degrees, right down in the southern part of Spain.
Is there a reason you don't work in August? Because a lot of photographers are very busy in August.
Yeah, well, because while the kids are young, I made a decision a long time ago to just, well, they're off school, I'm off working as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's financially, it's not ideal. It's a little bit like Father Christmas taking Christmas off, isn't it? You know, as a wedding photographer. But yeah, I haven't worked in August for, I don't know, 5 years or so. We just, I shoot July, jump on a plane and away we go for a month.
I do think that a lot of photographers actually miss, and you'll probably come across as well in your mentoring, that they're so focused on business, they actually forget about their love of photography. And I think and this having a break and giving yourself a break is another example. As I always say to people, just go and do something photography-wise for you, because it will keep the love of the industry and the photography and the media alive inside you. So, doing that and having the discipline to stick to that, where you think, I can just sneak that one in and I can just sneak that one in, and all of a sudden the month's full, I think is a great attribute. So I'm going to say, the first question, obviously, Kevin, is where did it start for you? I mean, I ask everybody this because it's different, obviously, for everybody.
Well, I've been shooting full time since 2007, 2008, something like that. And up until 2007, I was working in London, working in IT, and it was a 2.5 hour commute every day each way. So 5 hour commute.
What?
Yeah,
wow.
Quite insane. And so I thought, well, I need to do something different. This is crazy. And one day I was on a train and I picked up one of those free magazines you get, and I was just kind of flicking through it, and there was an article about weddings, and which didn't interest me at all. By that point, I'd already been married twice myself, so I was like, I don't need to see any more wedding stuff.
You liked cake then.
And then suddenly I saw these like black and white candid pictures at the bottom of the page, wedding pictures. And I thought, God, they're really nice. I like that. I never thought that could even exist. So I went home to Gemma and I said, I think I might try and become a wedding photographer. And she was like, well, you don't have a camera. You've never taken pictures. You don't smile very much. I really don't think it's a good decision. But I did it, and I've done 500 weddings now. So that it was a complete career flip, like total career flip. 2 months later, I jacked in the job, and yeah, went on with some workshops and stuff, and here we are.
That was quite a major decision to make from obviously a job in the city to a wedding photographer and with family and things like that. That's quite a commitment to make.
Yeah, and it was it was kind of just at the beginning of that, the last recession we had. We're there we go.
That's what I say. There'll be a siren goes past. I do apologise.
We're about to go into another recession, of course, but it's it's similar in that respect. I started right in that recession, and just got on with it and just did it. And it, whilst I did work in London, we didn't have any. We just bought a house, just had a baby, and it had to work. There was no kind of golden handshake from my parents waiting for me or anything. We had nothing to start with, and it was so we started from that. Yeah, just kind of did it. Now, what helped me, of course, was when I was working in London, I was working in online marketing, websites, all that kind of stuff. So I had a bit of an advantage in putting a website together and getting that ranking really well very quickly. And so yeah, I think I put my website live, and then about 3 hours later, I had an inquiry, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to shoot weddings. Up until that point, it'd just been like setting everything up, and then and then it happened.
Well, 3 hours, that must be some sort of record from going live, isn't it?
Probably. You wouldn't be able to do it these days, yeah.
And did you set off, I know because you're famous for your documentary work, not just with weddings, did you set off with that documentary approach, or did you do the more standardized wedding approach to start with?
No, I knew exactly how I wanted to do it. It had to be candid, documentary style. That was like the non-negotiable thing for me, because I was giving up those Saturdays, and I used to play a lot of rugby and stuff, and I didn't want to do it. I knew I would be no good at doing the formal stuff, the editorial and kind of directing people. It's just not my personality. So it had to be this way, or it was not going to work. That doesn't mean that in the first kind of few weddings, even though that's what we discussed, my first wedding, just before I left, she said, when are we doing the group shots? And she gave me a list of 69.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it's the wheels fell off the rails a little bit, but yeah, pretty much that was always the direction, and I've maintained it.
69 group shots. I once had a lady who came with 4 sheets of A4 with fairly small font for her groups, and I said, well, Fish, you've got 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Don't you want any pictures of yourselves?
Yeah.
And because the groups I find are the hard work, because somebody's always gone for a cigarette, somebody's always in the toilet, somebody shouldn't be where they shouldn't be. Yeah. So what was it about documentary work that really floated your boat?
Well, I don't really know, because like I said, I'd not been a photographer. I'd never, I wouldn't have been able to look at a picture in those days and tell you why I liked it.
I'll share some pictures and put some up.
But what I did know was that I didn't have the personality for the the gregarious kind of guy that organizes groups and things like that. I just wanted to go wander around, do my thing, and then kind of come home. So that was kind of the driving factor for it. But then as it kind of grew, I started looking at the pictures and realizing that there's a lot of emotion in these pictures, or certainly that's what I was trying to capture. And it became important for me that the pictures are of things that actually happened. I often say to my clients, look, when you look back at your wedding pictures in 30 years time, I want you to remember exact moments. I don't want you to, I want you to look at the pictures and go, oh yeah, do you remember when that happened? Rather than look at the pictures and say, oh yeah, do you remember when the photographer made us do that to make these beautiful pictures? That doesn't mean to say that there's not, I don't, just because that's where I shoot, it doesn't mean I'm dismissing other styles. I've got many friends and, who shoot beautiful editorial, and clients choose them for that reason, and clients choose me because they don't want that, and that's ultimately my goal.
everybody is different, you know, and every client is different. Some people love the traditional side, some people love the candid side, some people love the editorial side of wedding photography, which is why there is so many people shooting so many different styles. But is this where the black and white came into it then? Because I mean, obviously, I'm a huge black and white fan, right from my film shooting days, you know, in darkroom and printing, and more known for my black and white work than my colour work, although I have done a bit. But where did that come from? Is that just a gut feeling that I just love the honestness of it?
Yeah, I think, you know, I often get asked why do you like black and white more than color? And you know, and I always think it's a bit cliche to say, you know, you see the emotion better if you take the color away and stuff like that. And maybe that's true, but I feel like with black and white, it's just easier to see the story. That's it ultimately. But if a picture should be in color, then it will be in color. It's, you know, I'm not. I actually offer my clients a discount if they want fully 100% black and white coverage, because I enjoy it better. It's easier for me. It's easier to edit. So if they want that, then they can have a discount.
I mean, the computers randomly picked this picture because for some reason, when I put them into this piece of software, it just doesn't do them in order. And obviously, we're talking about black and white pictures. The first thing he's done is stuck up a colour picture. But this, I mean, I look at the cake, I'm looking at the box, I'm looking at the Hoover, and the one thing I'm attracted to is the state of the Hoover hose, because it's just absolutely wrapped in gaffer tape, and it's obviously been in the wars, and it's bizarre but entertaining, you know, for many reasons.
That's it. I mean, this is you know, documentary photography for me is it's not just about candid headshots. You know, of course I do candid headshots, we all do that, but you know, I kind of see candid headshots as just records of the people who are there, whereas to tell a story, it has to be much wider than that. There needs to be context. So images like this, which was shot before bridal prep in the marquee, just as the caterers were sorting everything out. You know, this is the stuff that they never see. And, you know, it's still part of the story. This is the start of it in essence. So, you know, keeping an eye out for stuff like this all the time, that's what I think documentary photography is, you know, rather than, like I say, just candid shots of people drinking their champagne and stuff.
Would you ever move anything around to make it a little bit more believable, or it's just in the wrong place? You've totally got an inner sort of, no, I'm not cheating. It is as it is.
So I would never move a thing. You know, I work on the mantra that a picture is based on light, composition, and moment, and most of those things, apart from the moment, I can move myself to affect the light and the composition. But you know, you mentioned that, you know, the kind of honesty of it in terms of documentary, and it's not really down to that, I don't think. You know, I know plenty of people who are and can probably truly call themselves documentary photographers, but do actually tell people to go and stand near a window and pretend to laugh and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. If the clients are expecting that, it's absolutely fine. But if they're not expecting that, if they're expecting a fly on the wall type photographer, and then you get there and the photographer's like, oh, actually, come over here, this will make a much better picture, and, you know, pretend to laugh, then that's not the same thing.
They've already interfered, and the moment's not real anymore, haven't they?
Exactly. I mean, for example, this kind of picture here, this is, you know, it's far more important for me that this moment happens and evolves than it is for me to get that picture. So what I mean by that is, I took this picture with you know, little X100 camera. This is 2015, I think. And, you know, I went in, I took the picture, and then I moved away. You know, if I was to stand there and take hundreds of pictures, click, 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 that entire moment in time would disappear. It would just evaporate. The lady might not want her picture taken for a start. She might look at me. She might think, oh, actually, I need to adjust my hair or whatever. And then for this entire tender moment in time to never exist, purely because I turned up and started clicking away, you know, that's the antithesis of what I want to do. So, you know, I'll get the pictures and move away, and that's true of everything. You know, I say to the clients, look, the word you need to understand is not documentary or reportage or any of those fancy words. What you have to understand is the word candid, because candid is an adjective, and that means it's either candid or it's not. The moment you move a thing, change, and even if you just open a curtain to make more light come in, it's no longer candid because you've interacted with it. And that's just me. Again, it doesn't mean that people can't do what they need to do, of course, but as long as the client understands what they're going to do, then everybody's very happy.
I mean, this is what makes this picture is the painting on the wall. It's the picture on the wall. Obviously, I'm not knowing anything about this wedding. The gentleman sat there is obviously maybe missing from the wedding, but he's actually at the wedding. The way he's sat, sort of positioned, looking in the direction he's looking through the sort of gap in the decorations, it's just, and the position in the frame, everything couldn't have been better for me looking at that. I'm thinking, wow, I mean, I don't know if he was there, it just happened to be the case, but I'm reading the story and hopefully getting the right side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, this was actually a Sikh wedding. So Amy is the bride, she was Hindu, and the groom was Sikh. So the day before, they'd had the Hindu wedding in Cheltenham, which was a big traditional kind of Indian wedding, lots of dancing, lots of everything. And then at 4 a.m. the next morning, they headed to Southall in South London to do the Sikh wedding, and so I had to get there as well.
A bit of an all-nighter that one then, was it?
Yeah, it was. Drive through the night, got there. They all came on buses, and then it couldn't be more different. I don't know if you've ever been into a Sikh temple. I hadn't up until that point, and so there's no makeup. There's no the women sit separately to the men. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's so different from what they'd all experienced the night before. And yeah, it was quite a challenging wedding, but it was also a beautiful wedding.
I've heard of photographers doing different sort of nationalities of weddings, and if you start on the groups, then if somebody sees their picture being taken, somebody else must have their picture taken, and you can end up just all day taking people's portraits for the guests rather than the wedding. You need a second photographer sometimes to actually to cover that side of it. But with your sort of style, that probably wouldn't be totally irrelevant because there'd be no group shots anyway. You don't do group shots, end of, that's it, there's none?
No, no, not quite. So I'd say probably 60% of my clients have zero group shots, portraits, none of that. And that's purely because of the branding and the website and everything. So for the others that do, they'll often say things like, we don't really want them, but mum wants a couple of group shots. And I say, that's fine. We'll deal with that when we get to just before the wedding. I'll send you a pre-wedding questionnaire. So I send them a pre-wedding questionnaire, and in that pre-wedding questionnaire is a space for group shots. But there's only 3 lines, and each of those lines only allows 140 characters.
I like that. That's very clever. Very clever.
So yeah, typically we don't. And before the lockdown, I managed to do 3 weddings this year, and one of them had one group shot outside the house, which was like mum, dad, kids, that kind of thing, very quickly. And they were like, oh, I don't know if we can be bothered, but they did it. So yeah, 3 weddings, 1 group shot so far this year.
Well, the wedding industry hasn't happened, has it, for many photographers, and for, it's not just photographers, locations, cake people, dress shops, everything. It's just, I mean, it doesn't even look like it's ever going to get going, to be honest. I mean, I don't do many weddings at all. I think I had 3 in this year, purposefully, and one of those has gone into 2022.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens there. I love, one thing I love about your style of work as well is the expressions on people's faces. The lady on the left, you can read into that expression whatever you want. It's almost like a love there, but there's almost like I'm looking down a nose at somebody, and it's, there's a lot of social politics at some weddings, isn't there?
Yeah,
I'm not saying that was the case, by the way. I'm just
no, absolutely
reading into it.
It's really interesting because I like the work of people like Martin Parr, street photography work at least, and you know, he often says things like, you know, you should, regardless where you are, and this is what I take into my weddings as well, is, you know, you should photograph the social status, and there's an element of that going on. So in this case, to kind of give you some context of this wedding, this was a wedding in France, in a chateau in France. The bride was Jewish and the groom was Christian. They were all from America, but the grandmother, who you can see here, was living in France. And because she couldn't travel, they brought the entire wedding to her.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and the lady on the left with the expression is the mum. So she's the one in the middle of them two, kind of generationally. And because I knew that backstory, because I knew the reason why that wedding was happening there, then it became even more important for me to find, so that this moment after the ceremony, when people start interacting, that to me is the most important time, because that's when real emotion comes out. So I'm keeping one eye out for this grandmother and the bride. And, you know, it's really important that I get this picture, but also really important that I don't ruin that moment by going click, 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 and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So they had that moment, it evolved and they embraced and all that kind of stuff. And I just moved away and did my thing. So yeah, so, you know, I suppose the point is, you know, being this idea of a documentary photographer also means you have to use your ears and your wits, and you know, it's really important to understand the psychology of the stuff that's going on. I think
there's a lot of preempting. You know, is the psychology, as you just mentioned. You know, you're listening. I mean, I've used in talks before the analogy where is if somebody's telling a joke, you don't actually point the camera at the person telling the joke. You'll point the camera at the people who are going to react to the punchline if it's a good one. Yeah. Even if it's a bad one, you'll get a reaction of one way or another. And I think that's the preempting those moments. So do you find, how do you work around that? What's your psychology on that then?
Yeah, I mean, you're dead right. It's, you know, you try and, whenever it's things like for the example, that idea of somebody telling a joke, I'll do exactly the same thing as you. I'll position myself accordingly. But what I'll also try and do, and it might not always work, is reactively complete that story within a story. So I want to get also an understanding in the next picture of what the person was laughing at, if it's possible. Not always possible, you know. So yeah, it's kind of mini stories within stories. And you know, one of the questions I get asked a lot, like probably the most, is what happens when nothing happens? What do you take pictures of? What happens if it's a boring wedding? And you know, I don't think there's anything such as a boring wedding, but yeah, some of them are more pedestrian than others for sure. And what I tell people to do, and what I do myself now, is I actually just use my phone to record the audio. So I'll take myself into the room or wherever, what's going on. I'll just set the audio recording on my phone, and then I'll record that for 5 minutes, and I'll take myself away and I'll listen to the audio. And the audio will tell you the story of everything in that room. So you might hear the chefs shouting, you might hear the doors banging, you might hear kids in a corner, you might hear, you know, granny chatting away, you might hear the clink clank of cutlery, and if you can hear the clink clank of cutlery, then they will be able to hear it. And so that then gives you you know, that manifests itself in giving you something to go and start looking for, to shoot. Because that's, you know, one of the problems we all have, and I'm as guilty of it as everybody else, is, you know, we kind of stand at a wedding and think, oh crap, there's nothing to photograph, but you still just take pictures because you think you should be seen taking pictures, because they've employed you to be the photographer. So you've got to have the camera pinned to your eye all the time. And actually it's not true. They've employed you to be the person to capture the memories of their wedding. You know, anybody can press the button on the camera, but only you can see what you see through the viewfinder. That's what they've employed you for. So you're better off putting the camera down, exploring the room, looking for opportunities, looking for the light, figuring out what you're going to do. And that will always give you better images. Always.
That's an interesting mindset, to not worry about working as such, or be seen to be busy. And because that's about looking at, you know, probably looking at the cost. You think, well, some people may look at it and think, well, you know, they're paying me X amount of money to be here. I really ought to look busy, so to
Mm.
speak, you know.
Mm.
So that's quite an interesting analogy that if there's nothing happening, I'll just wait till something does to a point and then just keep my eye and ears open. What do you record the audio with, just on your phone, out of curiosity? Do you
Just
put
on
a
the
microphone in it, or just put it on the
No,
table and leave it?
just put it on the table and leave it. Yeah, it's not for any. I don't use it for anything. It's just as a, and it's not. I don't always do it, but it's just as a you know, to give you some kind of guideline. I do it on my street photography as well. So if I want to concentrate on a particular area, I record the audio first and go to a coffee shop and listen, and that will always tell you so much about the area. You'll hear the voices, you'll hear the direction of the traffic, all of that kind of stuff, which will then give you a really good, you know, basis for taking the pictures that you need to go and take.
There's a few things about your workflow and things like that I'll come to in a bit. I mean, let's just talk about this picture. I mean, a lot of people would probably not want this picture because of the state of the kitchen. You know, it's busy, it's a wedding, there's washing in the sink, there's rubber gloves, there's wires, there's pictures that are a bit wonky, there's bottles of champagne, and then there's just a focal point in the middle, you know, of the bride getting prepared. It's just such an honest photograph of what it's like at a wedding, because it is chaos, isn't it, when the bride's getting ready.
Yeah, I love this picture, I have to say. And you're right. You know, normally if I go to a bride's home for bridal prep, mum will start thinking, oh my God, I need to tidy up, I need to do this, I need to do that. And you know, and I never stop them doing whatever they want to do. I just say, look, you know, remember, it is as it is, you know, whatever. And the reason I love this picture, and this is one of the pictures I'll show to all my potential clients, and I'll say, look, you know what, this picture is not about today or the day of the wedding. This is about the landscape of your future, I suppose, because in 20 years' time, you won't have that boiler anymore. You may have moved, you may have put an extension on, you know, milk bottles will be a different shape, you'll have new cabinets, whatever. You know, and you'll look at this picture and think, oh God, do you remember those rubber gloves we used to use? And that'll take, you know, that'll take them down the rabbit hole of thinking, oh yeah, do you remember that time we had to unplug the washing machine and, you know, and the tea towels and everything. And that's why these pictures are so important to me, at least.
I absolutely agree. That one thing I must ask you, I mean, when I first started, I mean, my journey is a little bit later than yours. I didn't start until about 2012, if you want to call it a journey. But when I discovered who I was as a photographer, it was such an enlightening moment within me, that to be the photographer that I always wanted to be, rather than the photographer I was having to be. I get the sense that that's where you are. And do you ever feel any pressure when you go to a wedding?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm all.
You still feel that?
Yeah, I sit in the car outside every wedding, and you know,
like every other photographer. Then.
Yeah, and I ring my wife, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing this for? You know,
where's the toilet? I need to pee again.
Yeah, exactly, all of that stuff. You know, but yeah, I don't feel stressed so much as in I have to get certain shots, because that's just not on the table. It doesn't need to be done. I mean, of course, I will get the important shots, you know, through the natural progression of the day, and I, you know, I have my own way of getting kind of pictures of the back of the dress and everything. But I don't have a list of shots that I need to kind of go and get and, you know, and think about. So yeah, there's no pressure in that respect, but absolutely I want to do a good job, and, you know, and I need to, because I shoot with natural light. You know, the biggest challenge for me is if I go into a church and it's pitch black or anything like that, you know, and so I have to deal with that. Those are the challenges.
I think, you know, one of the questions I did actually ask, or pop down, which you've totally answered, is that do you ever use any extra light? And you won't, will you? Because it's like, no. Like you said earlier, it's like opening the curtains. If you open the curtains, that wasn't done by a guest, that was done by you, in which case you've interfered with the shot. So putting extra light in will actually
exactly
down that line.
The only time I will use an extra light is if for the first dance, and I've got a little LED, a little Manfrotto, I think it's Manfrotto Lumimuse LED, which I'll use just for kind of focus acquisition, and then I'll kind of put it in the bag. But that's it, yeah.
So noise, shooting at high-end ISOs, all that doesn't worry. I mean, obviously you're a Fuji shooter, being a Fuji ambassador, and I've watched a few of your YouTube videos on certain cameras. I notice you carry about 3 cameras around with you. Is that just to stop you swapping lenses?
I'll typically shoot with 2 cameras. I'll normally shoot with X Pro 3 and either 2 X Pro 3s or an X Pro 3 and an X-T3. But I will always have a third. You're right about the 3 cameras. I'll always have a third camera somewhere on my body, which is normally X100 or an X70 or something, which is a little point and shoot cameras, and they will be in my jacket pocket or in my breast pocket if it's the X70. And yeah, so I will shoot with a 23mm lens and a 56mm lens, which in full frame equivalent is 35-85.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I just don't change lenses. Not because there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just, those are the focal lengths that I'm perfectly happy with.
35 being your favorite?
Yeah, I'd say if I was to analyze my pictures, I'd say probably 70% of the images were taken with 35mm.
It's a very versatile lens, isn't it? I mean, I just did a blog about fashion photography, and I think I've worded the 35mm lens as more of a storytelling lens than an 85, because you can include more of the location, which obviously then helps tell the story. So I love 35mm lenses.
Yeah.
Is this what's this picture about? Is this the races or something like that? I'm trying to get an inkling of reading the text on the lady's pamphlet of newspaper.
Cheltenham Festival.
Oh, okay.
So I go every year, although I didn't go this year. And a big bunch of us go, and everybody's interested in the horses. I
don't understand horse racing personally, no.
I'm just off taking pictures of the people, and I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. It's so many different types of people there, and you can really. And I shoot from the hip when I'm doing this, so by that I'm the camera now is, that is down by my kind of midriff area. So I'm not raising the camera to my eye to shoot this picture, and that's why they're not looking at me. So you can get really, really close and get really, really interested subject.
How do you do that? Do you just set it at f8 or Sunny 16, or just let the camera pick its focal point?
Yeah, it depends really on the weather and stuff. So if the weather is overcast and it's not changing or anything like that, I might actually shoot it manually and set normally f5.6 or something. This is another one from the festival.
That guy's face is like, oh, what am I going to tell? I mean, I'm reading this and I love to tell stories or look at stories, and he's sort of looking and saying, Christ, what am I going to tell the wife? I've just lost the car, or I've just lost the house on the horse. Things like that, and the other guy's trying to pacify him, and there's all sorts of the other blokes, you won't believe what he's just done. There's all sorts of things going on in this one simple image.
I know it is, and if I remember rightly, there's a whole series of this stuff on the website. But the series starts with him being all bullshit and everything, and then his horse is winning, and then it fails, stops, and then this kind of thing.
Good laugh. Yeah, this is the thing about the beauty of documentary work, isn't it? It's that the viewer, is always seeing them. Somebody will see something completely different. But there's always something to read into these pictures, and that's what makes them so interesting. The technical side, some people may go down the technical route and say this, that, and the other. It's irrelevant. It's more about the emotion and the actual narrative than the technical elements of the picture. Because I've noticed as well that, obviously, someone got a question. I'll come to that in a minute. Your black and white work. I watched a video last night, and you edit your black and white work in a way I've never seen before. You basically edit it all with the color sliders, don't you?
Yeah, effectively. So I'll kind of use a profile and a Lightroom profile that's quite contrasty, and then take the saturation out, and then use the tone curves. So yeah, that's basically it for the raw files. It's a pretty straightforward process. I don't really like the Lightroom black and white mix, if you like, when you just hit black and white, and then I'll warm them up.
Haven't you got some presets that you've just due to release, or you've released, or something like that? Is it?
Yeah, I have. So it was one of the things that lockdown gave me the opportunity to do, is get on with this project, which I've been planning for years. So yeah, so I have released some black and white film presets, which basically give you these edits, and they're profile based, so they're not just a set of sliders that have been changed. There's actually profiles with lookup tables built into them that I've built. So it's all been done properly. Yeah, and that's been actually it's been a bit of a lifesaver, I have to say, because you know, it's brought in a few pennies that were needed when all of the weddings.
I mean, I've noticed as well. I mean, I noticed somewhere I heard you mention that one of the biggest questions you get is, how do you edit your black and whites? And it's one of the biggest questions I get, is, how do I get my blacks black? And then people have taken the mickey at me. So how do you manage to get 32 shades of black in your pictures? And you're very hard with your edits, and so am I. But you've got a more warmer tone to yours. Mine are pretty stark in comparison.
Yeah, I like to warm them up a little bit. Sometimes, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with the warm element now. It's part of the brand, so it's pretty much in there. But sometimes I just think, oh, I want to ditch it, but then, you know,
it keeps coming back.
Coming back, yeah.
It's obviously in there in your subconscious, because you actually love this, as though it's there. And I do think that a lot of edit is a subconscious process, because some people like Martin. I mean, I had Martin Parr on the other week, and we had an excellent chat. He loves colour. He loves really vibrant colour. And there's one of your pictures in here that I just thought straight away of Martin when I saw it, if it'll pop up. But I do think that a lot of photography is subconscious. Style is a subconscious thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We've got a question here. If you're using a 35 and 85, you must get quite close to some subjects. Do you find getting close to the subjects makes people react to your presence, or how do you avoid that?
No, I don't think. I mean, in some cases they will, obviously, but generally, you know, what you have to remember is I'm using cameras that are tiny. You know, they're just little kind of point and shoots almost.
Are they a fixed lens body, those?
This one is, yeah. This is the X100, but the X Pro isn't that much bigger than that. So that makes a difference, you know. And I will go in, and then I'll move out. I'll take 3 shots or whatever, you know, and then I'll move away, and I'll do it very quickly. I'll often shoot with one hand. So if I'm wandering around the wedding reception, you know, I might have a glass of lemonade or something in one hand, and I'll just wander. If I'm walking past somebody, I'll kind of go in, shoot, move away. So yeah, it's very quick, very light. And a lot of the times I will also shoot from the hip. So, you know, then people just think you're playing with the back of the camera, and you know, actually what you're doing is taking.
Have you ever had any confrontational moments? I'm sure you probably have.
I have to say I haven't. I mean, I do remember.
Maybe not at weddings, but even on the street, because I mean, the street photography now is quite confrontational, isn't it? Or it can be.
Again, I haven't. At weddings, I did have one guy who basically was going out of his way to cause trouble.
Just with yourself, or just with the congregation or the guests in general?
With mostly everybody, but particularly me.
There's always one after a pint, isn't there?
Particularly me, and so I just made it. I just avoided him. You know, that was it. That's how I dealt with that. So there was no pictures of him.
No, that's down to your discretion as a photographer, isn't it? You won't be appearing in any pictures, mate. I tell you.
On the streets, you know, again, that's a question I get asked a lot. What happens when people, you know, confront you? And it's literally never happened to me. Never. And I think that's partly because of the way that I like to do my street photography, which is, like in this picture you can see here, what I've done is I've scoped out an area where I like the light. I've metered for the light. I've set the camera manually. I've brought the camera down low, and then I just wait for people to, you know, to come into the scene. So I'm not chasing these people. I haven't chased up the street. I haven't got in their face. I haven't put my camera bang in their face and then run off Bruce Gilding style. And you know, I've literally never ever had anybody, you know, kind of confront me ever. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen to other photographers when I've been out and about. And I always say to people on my workshops, look, you know, as long as you're taking pictures of things that you wouldn't mind yourself being in that picture, so as long as it's ethical, then, you know, you can do that. And if somebody says to you, you know, for example, if these guys said to me, hey, did you take my picture? I'd say, yeah. Do you want to have a look? I love it. I love the light, you know, look at your hats. And, you know, they're obviously going off to synagogue. And, you know, I'll send you one if you give me your email address. And that's it. That's all you need to do. There's no harm in it. We're not trying to steal souls.
I think a lot of it, to be honest, Kevin, is being polite. I've seen street photographers with a huge amount of aggression and attitude towards subject. You're in the street, you're my target, I can do what I like. And that's not the way to do. I mean, I'm not a street photographer by any means, but that's not the way to deal with people in any genre, to be honest. If you put the backs up, they're going to get arsey with you, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've got no truck with those people, those types of photographers. And you see it on YouTube all the time, and they're doing it for the YouTube ego rather than for the sake of the art. And, you know, that I just hate it.
Well, I mean, that's just the same in a lot of genres. There's always those people that get a bad name for everybody else, and the minority spoil it for the majority, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, is this your son?
Yeah, this is Albie.
He doesn't look particularly happy, mate.
No, but this is you know, I often show this picture because I think it's you know, it's what we look back at in the future, isn't it? You know, it's that idea that nobody wants their children to be crying, but everybody wants to remember it. You know, and it's, you know, it's like ideas of, you know, people cleaning their teeth or whatever. It's everyday stuff that we reminisce about. And if you don't take pictures of it, then you know, you can't reminisce about it. And you know, I think it's important. So yeah, I take pictures of pretty much everything. This is actually shot on a GFX, so it's I've got it printed nice and big, which he hates.
Is that the big sensor Fuji, the GFX?
Yeah,
I've heard the.
Yeah.
What is that? Is it 100 meg, that one, or?
Oh, well, the one I took this one on was 56, I think, but the GFX 100 is 103 megapixels. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I shoot on a 62 meg sensor, and the detail is ridiculous on the files, I will admit. We've got another question, probably maybe from Ian, who's maybe a Fuji user. And are you using eye recognition on focusing?
No. I would for portraits, if I'm doing portraits, if I was doing any portraits. Not in this case because it's too candid. I use the eye recognition for my filming when I'm doing any kind of talking heads or my YouTube stuff. But no, I don't. I'm a focus and recompose person. So I'll focus using back button focus, recompose the frame, and then shoot. I don't shoot in continuous mode. And so for the you know, for the eye tracking to work, ideally you need to be in that continuous mode, for it to, you know, to give it a good chance of keeping up with stuff. So yeah, I don't.
I'm going to ask what's going on in this picture, because it looks whatever in that bowl is going absolutely everywhere. And obviously, I presume that's the intention.
Yeah. So this is a traditional Indian part. So an Indian wedding has lots of different parts, and one of them is this is some kind of milk, and they put in I think it's stones, or it might be a ring or something anyway in there, and the bride and groom have to fight. The first person to find it wins. Okay. Now, traditionally, what you'll see of this kind of picture is of them all smiling, staring at the camera, with their hands hovering over the milk. You know, and that's just, to me, it means nothing. So I wanted to get you know, the milk's pouring over the side. They're really going for it. Somebody else has had to hold onto the bowl to stop it from being thrown away.
They're holding onto it, or they're trying to steal it.
I'm not sure if I sent you the picture, but there's a second picture where she wins and she's pulling the ring out. And
let's have a look and see. It'll be on here.
This right one. There it is. Yeah.
Oh, look at that! I've got the lady on the left, and the guy. Is that the groom, I presume, on the right?
The groom is on the right. The bride is in the middle, and that's the mum, I think, of the bride's mum on the left. Yeah.
He looks really quite dischuffed about the fact she's won, isn't he?
Yeah. So it's just a real life version of a very standard picture that everybody takes, you know, and I just, to me, this is far more interesting than that kind of posed version.
I mean, expressions like that can never be faked, even by maybe by a very, you know, a good actor. But this is the problem. As soon as you start engineering people in a picture, they go all wooden, and the moment's gone, like we discussed earlier. But that's just such a real split-second expression that it's never to be. You never fake it, would you ever?
No. Yeah.
So what, you know, during lockdown as well, what have you been doing during lockdown?
Well, I've been mostly panicking. But
you're going to be busy next year, I think.
Yeah, after that, I've been mostly drinking beer, and then I've been, like I said, I actually got quite a lot of stuff done, a lot of stuff on my to-do list. So I've moved all my wedding websites and my Fujifilm websites away from WordPress to Squarespace. I've done that. I've built a new website called Ministry of Shadows, which is a website for black and white lovers. It's a submission-based website. Did my presets. Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. The website based on black and white submissions.
Yeah. So the idea of Ministry of Shadows, again, something I'd been planning for a long time, was to have a website that was dedicated purely to black and white photography and films.
Do you shoot film at all yourself?
No, I don't really. And what I mean by film, by the way, is it always happens. I mean moving films, so black and white movies.
Oh, right. Okay.
And yeah, so of course, mostly it's my images on there at the moment, but the idea is that people will submit stuff to it, and we'll publish it. And you know, we've had some amazing stories on there, black and white stories, beautiful work, and the idea is it's for anybody. You know, doesn't have to be show-stopping work. It just needs to have a story. That's what I'm interested in. Story to the images, story to the text, and yeah, it's good. You know, if you haven't got a platform to show your work, then do submit.
Is it more of basically going to be an archive of story, black and white?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just somewhere like almost like an online magazine. You know, for people who are interested in looking at, you know, really nice storytelling black and white images, then go there. It's not wedding focused. It's not anything focused. It's just about black and white. So yeah, we've had a load of submissions, which I'm working through slowly, but yeah, it's good. I'm interested.
Hopefully you'll have a lot more after this little chat today. I think people will probably Google it now as we speak. I've just got a big question. In fact, I'm going to read that. I'm just going to refer to this picture before I read that question, because it's quite a big one. I just love this expression on this girl's face. She almost looks like the pennies just dropped, that something major is actually going to happen. I don't know if she's the bride, or if she's a bridesmaid, or the wife, or what.
She is the bride. So
she's the bride. It's proper moments of contemplation going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, I love it. I love this picture. The light is great. She's obviously in her own world. Dad's putting his shirt on in the background. The bedroom is all, you know, a bit messy, and you know, all of this stuff I said earlier about looking back at these things in the future, and they'll be, you know, remembering when they used to hang their clothes like that, and the pictures on the walls and everything. Yeah, there's two very separate stories in this picture for sure.
I'm just going to read this question out. It might take me a while. I've noticed on your new site, Kevin, that you are giving away images in both colour and black and white now. I've always refused to do this and offered one or other, but usually persuaded them to let me decide, give them a mix. I argue that this is still the part of the service they are getting from me. My experience in knowing when a picture will have greatest impact in black and white or colour. Do you think that now we need to give both, as more clients are demanding it? I am reluctant to do, but just wondered your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so the way that this works is that my clients will get each image in color and black and white, and that's fine. But what I will do is I present them a photo film in designed as I wish. Okay, so for example, you know, they might have, I do it all in islands of color or islands of black and white as well. So for example, all the outside stuff might be in color, all the inside stuff might be in black and white, or vice versa, or the whole thing might be in black and white, or the whole thing might be in color. So the photo film is where I still kind of keep that creativity, if you like. But yeah, ultimately, this is the marketplace we live in now. You know, people want more for less. And that's it. You know, it's no drama. I used to shoot JPEG only. And now the Fujifilm cameras obviously have dual card slots, so I shoot JPEG and RAW, you know, 2 different cards, and I can do it. So I just you know, offer it. But the images that will make my website, the images that will make their photo film, are always the ones that, you know, I think suit the finish.
Do you have a favorite place to shoot, just out of curiosity?
Not really. I don't actually. I'm not recommended by any venues. I've never kind of gone down that route. So it's rare for me to be in the same place often. But I do like, you know, I like the more kind of country house type weddings rather than the barn conversions and stuff. And London's good. You know, I've done a lot of weddings overseas. I've got a wedding in October, whether it'll still go ahead, I don't know, in Bucharest Cathedral in Romania. The last wedding shop.
I think Eastern Europe would be a great place to work, because it's just got some great streets and architecture and everything, and very interesting people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If we're allowed to go, that'd be good. This was at a place called Doxford Barnes, which I think is up near Manchester kind of direction. And you know, pictures like this, I always make sure I'm stood on the side, the groom side, if you like, at the wedding, if I'm allowed, so I can capture the bride, because she's far more important than the groom. And I'm just looking for these like little interactions, the moments, the eyes, the ways that humans connect with each other most powerfully are through the eyes and the hands. And you know, it's really important for me to be able to see these things and shoot them and give them those types of pictures.
I've had another question. What do you mean by photo film, Julie?
A photo film is a set of stills with background music. Yeah, so if you go onto my website, there's a whole section called photo films, and you'll see loads of them. Yeah,
brilliant. Is this back at Cheltenham? Cheltenham.
Yeah, look at them. Brilliant.
It's usually we have. Ladies' days have become famous days out at. We've got Beverley races just up the road from us, fairly decent race course, and we've got York as well. And I have a friend who's a full-time sort of equestrian-based photographer with horse racing and hunter trials and all this. And there was ladies' days were getting completely out of control due to vast amounts of alcohol being consumed and things like that. And the press release came out that if any photographers released anything that was derogatory about the races, they would lose their card, basically, lose their I can't think of the word, you know, their license.
Yeah.
So they're almost trying to police that now, you know, which is to a social documentary photographer red rag to a bull, to be quite honest, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I'm just trying to find this one picture here that this one. I can see that you've got a bit of influence from somebody on this picture almost.
Yeah. So this is I you know, like many of us, we have little ongoing projects, and one of my ongoing projects is, and I have to always be really careful how I say this, but older people in love. Let's just say that. So I'm forever looking for, you know, interactions between elderly people that still kind of, you know, show them connected. And this is from a whole series I did at Weston-super-Mare, entirely based on the English seaside, if you like.
Is that where Martin does a lot of his work, Weston-super-Mare?
No, his beach stuff has been all over the place, mostly up kind of near Liverpool stuff, but I'm sure he has been to Weston. Yeah, I'm sure of it.
I mean, he mentioned last time I spoke to him that he was going down to the seaside for the day, and I thought thought it was Western Surrey. I've probably got that wrong.
It might be. I mean, he's in Bristol, so Western is the nearest kind of, big seaside area. If you, yeah.
It is fascinating. I mean, as I say, we live in a seaside town, and it's something that I should really be doing myself because it's on my doorstep, and it's something I don't. So, having spoken to people like yourself, I'm thinking, I really should go and do this. I mean, I did some lockdown things. I did the doorstep portraits, although I kept that fairly quiet because there was a real mixed reception from people, the public, about that. Where do you sit on the fence with that one then?
Well, I did it also. I did it for charity though. So I waited until we were allowed to, when they said you can see people in the gardens and stuff. I would have liked to have done it before then because I agree we would have had more resonance. So a friend of mine who I shot her wedding years and years ago, she said, do you fancy if I organize it? Do you want to do the pictures? So we did it, yeah, and we did I don't know, maybe 30 or so people. And the idea actually is that we'll do a little exhibition at the town hall because we live in a tiny little village as well. And when time allows, we'll do this little exhibition, and it's all people sat on their doorsteps and stuff. They all made a donation to the food bank. And that was
I did mine a slightly different way, but it's still going to charity in the fact that the books will get produced and then the profits will just go to probably the lifeboat, because I was a member of the crew for several years, and that's it's a local needy and very welcome charity. So we're always struggling for finance to rescue people who don't think about what water's capable of doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's when it does that, it makes it that bit more poignant. The fact that you photograph local people and you've kept it all in the community, as you said with your little exhibition. Everybody was quite happy to be in the pictures, in the book as well. So it's just a question of finding someone to produce the book at the right cost.
That's
the next. Have you ever done a book?
I've not a book of pictures. I had a book published, a technical book about Fujifilm, one of the Fujifilm cameras, but that was done by Peach Pit Press. So they dealt with all of the complicated stuff. I just sent them loads of misspelt words many times.
Yeah, I have to have my work overlooked by Michelle at home because my writing skills are not quite as sharp as my photography skills, I think. And thank goodness for Grammarly and things like that. Sorting stuff out. It still gets it a little bit wrong. I do think that when we're writing, with me being from East Yorkshire, I've been told I've got quite an East Yorkshire accent, and we have quite a dialect, round about us, and we do say and speak in a particular way and write exactly the same. Well, I think unless anybody's got any more questions. Have you ever thought about doing anything else photography-wise before we go?
I mean, I think I've done quite a bit. I used to do, back in the early days when I had my Canons, I used to do pitch-side rugby photography. Quite enjoyed that. But really my passion is in kind of legacy stuff. So, what I really want to do is find a set of families and document them over a long period of time. But of course, the problem with that is that it's not financial. You don't really get any reward from it. Very time consuming, and you need to find the people to do it. So that's kind of the dream, but it's not like.
Have you ever taken a picture that you think you'll be remembered for? That's quite a question I've been asked before.
No, I don't know. I think. Most people kind of say that when they look at a picture of mine, they knew it was mine because of the black and white. So I'm not sure about the actual pictures. I I've photographed births. I've photographed. I had an old lady drop dead in front of me at a wedding once, so I can technically say I've photographed deaths. That
would be a bit of a do I photograph or do I help a moment, wouldn't it?
No, I went into help mode. I did CPR. I wasn't very good at it. She died.
Oh, I don't know if you should blame yourself for that one. But that is a real. I mean, I've taken a picture of it's not somebody dying, but I have photographed death before, which I thought I was getting set up by Jeremy Beagle when he was kicking around, and I went and did this job, and unfortunately I wasn't, and it's quite a bizarre job, to be honest. I've just had another question before we go. If there's no light in the church and you rely on natural light only, don't you just end up with a load of noise?
No, because there's, what you have to remember is if it's light enough for people to be in there, there will be light. It's not like you're in a black room. And typically what I'll do is I'll use spot metering on my camera to meter for the brightest area. And then I'll lock it in, and it's really rare for me to shoot higher than 6400 ISO these days. Careful metering, careful control of the exposure will mitigate it. And remember the mirrorless cameras, all mirrorless cameras, not just Fujifilm ones, are very light, so you can get away with shooting at much slower shutter speeds.
Do the Fujis link their spot meter to the focal point?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a really useful tool. How have you found the change from DSLR over to mirrorless then?
Oh, I mean, to be honest with you, I only shot with DSLRs for 3 years, I suppose. So I moved to Fujifilm in 2011. So like the comparison is so different because now DSLRs are very different to how they were back in those days. And my DSLRs were great. My Canon cameras were great. They got me brilliant pictures. I was very happy with them, but they were huge and heavy. And I didn't really kind of fell into the mirrorless system. It just so happened I bought a camera, took it to a wedding, and thought, my God, this is game changing. I can do things that they just won't see me doing, and I can get in close. I can see in the viewfinder what the image is going to look like. All of those things that was it for me. There was no reason to keep the Canon stuff.
It was my eyesight that made me change, because I found myself shooting more in live view all the time, and I thought, it's a bit ridiculous this. I might as well be shooting in a mirrorless. And I'd sort of been down the mirrorless will never catch on sort of avenue for a while, and totally had my eyes opened. I shoot Sony. I'm not Fuji. I do have a Fuji. I have an XT1, but which I love because it's my travel camera because it's so small. But I decided to go down the Sony. I took a punt on that purely because I could use I still shoot with all my Canon mounted glass on my Sonys.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with any of it. But yeah, they are. Do you shoot with your viewfinder in black and white, just out of curiosity?
Yeah. So everything's in black and white. Even if I'm shooting raw, I shoot everything. Always, all my cameras, all the time, black and white. Always looking in black and white. So you can see the shadows and highlights so much.
Exactly. All you want to see is tone, isn't it?
Yeah.
You shoot very similar to me, to be honest. Or I shoot very similar to you, whichever way. Probably I shoot very similar to you because you had the camera first. So. But I do find that everything I have set is black and white, and then the first time you see your images in color is when you upload them to your computer or your server. But yeah, tone. I had my contrast slider set up so I get as much grit and drama in my images on my viewfinder, and histogram, and away you go. Yeah. I find it fascinating on watching your editing that you've hardly, I don't think you ever moved the contrast slider. It just stayed on in the middle of its setting all the time. It was all done with red filters, and if any people wonder what we're talking about, go on to YouTube, type in Kevin's name and have a look at this editing, because it's a fascinating way of doing it, completely different to myself. And with that, we end up with a similar result. Are you Photoshop Lightroom user? Have you been like that all the time?
Lightroom, I've tried Capture One occasionally, but I can't really see too much of a difference in the images, and workflow wise, Lightroom just kills it. Lightroom is, as an asset management system, it's incredible.
I've dabbled with Capture One, and it's almost trying to write left-handed.
I
don't think it's bad software at all, and I think if you were setting off new to editing and you set off in Capture One, then yes, you would probably master it. I've had some photographer friends who really rate it. They said the files look better. They're Fuji shooters, actually. And they say their files are just looking so much better than Lightroom renders them. And I do agree they do look different, but I'm just wondering whether or not it's just applying more sharpening or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not clever enough to understand it. You know, you look with your eye and think, yeah, that one looks better than that one. That one
Yeah.
was done in, but you can always manipulate anything to look how you want.
Yeah, and absolutely. You know, it's that kind of Mac Windows debate, isn't it? It's
Well,
it's
you know,
pointless.
they all do the job.
Yeah,
Don't they?
exactly,
A
exactly.
camera does the job at the end of the day, whether you're Fuji, Sony, Canon, Minolta. How old am I?
Yeah,
I don't know who owned Minolta or what Minolta are. Are they Olympus now? I've lost track of who belongs
I
to
think
who.
they were. Yeah, I think Olympus did take them on board, and of course Olympus yesterday have jumped.
Announced that, yeah, they've just sold their thing. One more question and then I'll let you go, Kevin. Would you like to say that, I would just like to say that what I love about Kevin as a photographer and person is that he is as genuine as his pictures. You just know you will get an honest answer. This is rare. Thank you, Kevin. There's a thumbs up for you, mate.
Yeah,
I do think being honest is the best policy, if I'm quite honest. You know, you're not caught out if you tell the truth all the time, are you?
Well, it's true, isn't it? I think the industry, there's a little bit less so than it used to be, but yeah, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in there. And, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, it's my wedding clients that pay me. It's not Fujifilm or anybody like that. So it's the important thing is that I can do the job for them, and you have to be honest, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody's just put, thanks for answering the questions. It's been really interesting. And I'd like to, I think Becky might say with that, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Kevin, for spending an hour with us this morning. And what sort of beer do you like to drink?
All of it.
Oh, are you an IPA drinker, a black drinker?
Yeah, I like actually in the winter I like Guinness and stuff like that, and then in the summer I'm probably more of a cider drinker, I have to say.
So you're very much like me. You drink black and white beer as well, then?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I'm a Guinness drinker. I do like a pint of Bellhaven Black. Actually, have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I have had it. Yeah. I honestly, I'll try anything, but it's whatever I can get my hands on that's cheapest. That's it.
10-inch full strength, super strength, or whatever they call it. But thanks again, Kevin. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this hour. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I've just got one more question, and it's from our director. Actually, he'd like to know about your creative eye. Where do you look to find your images?
Well, inspiration-wise, do you mean, or?
Yeah. Let's go with that one first, and then I'll go otherwise after.
Well, I think inspiration-wise, it's mostly, you know, I hate it when wedding photographers say, "Oh, I never look at other wedding photographers' work." I think what they mean by that is I'm always looking at other wedding photographers' work. So yeah, I do look at other wedding photographers' works. Right at the beginning, the inspiration for me was Jeff Askoff. You know, it was his images that I looked at and I loved, and I still love his images. But I suppose now there's so many different styles and stuff. I get a lot of inspiration from, believe it or not, portrait photographers. People like Luis Garvan in Mexico. Love his stuff. I've got so many photo books as well that I look through from a documentary point of view. There's a photographer called Darcy Padilla who did a series of work called Family Love, and it's absolutely incredible work, incredible of the book and the film and everything. And you know what I kind of learned from it all is all of this idea that it's all about light. You know, light, composition, and moment. They're the only three things that you need to make a good picture, regardless what's in there. So yeah, I'm all over the place looking for inspiration. Anything I can look at and I think, oh, I love that, then I'll bookmark it. My bookmarks are, you know, dragging down to the floor.
Much like mine. Or screenshot that. Just take a picture of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And yes, thank you, guys. It's a great morning's watch. That's from Leslie and Steve. So we must have answered his question there for him. Good. We've had lots and lots and lots of love being sent in. Great talk. Thank you. Really interesting. Full of great ideas. So it's been another fantastic session. So thank you so much, Kevin. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. And thank you, Gavin, again for another brilliant session.
Well, I look forward to sharing a pint with you when we can
Yeah.
eventually meet one day, Kevin, at some wherever that may be. I'll find you in. I'll treat you in the bar, and that's unusual for a Yorkshireman to say that.
Yeah, it is, especially you.
Thanks very much for that.
I'm joking. But fantastic session, guys. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.